These are 3 of Gravity Falls' best episodes of all time, the third being Dipper and Mabel vs. the Future, with a rating of 9.3 stars. The episode starts off with Mr. Upside Downington, which is literally just Mabel with eyes glued to her chin, and she wakes up Dipper telling him she has some big news. The news is that Dipper and Mabel are exactly 1 week from being 13, which also means the end of summer is coming soon, because their birthday is on August 31st. Mabel is excited for high school, and the only thing Dipper's excited for is watching PG-13 movies. Dipper and Mabel start trying to plan a party at the Mystery Shack, but Uncle Stan instantly says they can't, since the last party they had almost started a zombie apocalypse, which I guess is a pretty valid reason. So Seuss suggests they rent out the high school gym, since it's empty all summer long anyways, and they all agree that's a pretty good idea, and are about to go to the high school when a giant explosion causes the entire house to shake, and Uncle Ford screams that his face is on fire. Dipper runs up the stairs all worried, but Ford says he's fine, and he just wanted to make sure he came up there, even though his face was literally on fire. Ford tells Dipper that the rift in space-time is cracking, and if it breaks, apparently it would cause reality to completely unravel. I have no idea what that means, but it sounds pretty terrifying. Ford calls this possible event Weird Mageddon, and it's apparently what Bill has been waiting for. Ford asks Dipper if he'll go with him to patch the rift, but he's worried about how Mabel's gonna feel, since they were planning birthday stuff. But she's actually pretty cool with it, and packed walkie-talkies in their backpacks. Mabel and Seuss head to the gym to check it out, but turns out it's not empty at all, because it's high school registration day. This is when Mabel learns from Wendy that the real high school is nothing like High School Musical, and it actually sucks bad. Mabel tries sharing this horrible news with Dipper, but the connection on the walkie-talkies is really bad, so they can't talk to each other. Seuss, feeling bad, asks Mabel if she wants to go around and invite her friends to the party to cheer her up. Next, we see Dipper and Ford somewhere in the woods, and Ford tells Dipper that in order to seal the rift, they're gonna need something extraterrestrial. Wait, hold on. Did this man just casually confirm that aliens exist in Gravity Falls? And not only that, but the entire valley of Gravity Falls was formed when a UFO crashed into a mountain millions of years ago. So of course Dipper asks where the UFO went, and somehow they're just standing right on top of it. So Ford uses a magnet gun to open up the hatch to the UFO, and tells Dipper he shouldn't worry, because the aliens have been dead for millions of years. Ford and Dipper climb down into the UFO, and this thing is massive. They're searching for some kind of alien adhesive, and Ford uses his magnet gun and slides down this gigantic tube. And he's just like, "You got that, right, Dipper?" And Dipper does not got that. Now we see Mabel at her friend's house asking if they can come to her party, but Greta's going to see her boyfriend, and Candy is stuck going to music camp. Also, look at Candy's face. What horrors has she seen in music camp? But obviously this makes Mabel sad, and she desperately needs her brother for emotional support, but all it's on the walkie-talkie is just static. Back at the spaceship, Ford starts to ask Dipper about his future, then hits him with a big question. Ford wants Dipper to stay with him and study the weirdness of Gravity Falls as his apprentice, basically leaving Mabel to go back home alone. Dipper has some self-doubts, but then he accidentally finds exactly what they're looking for, which is this weird gluey goo. Before they can seal the rift though, Dipper and Ford accidentally activated the security system in the UFO, and the only way for them not to sense you is if you don't feel fear. And that's easy, right? No, I'm joking. My heart would be literally racing, so I can't even blame Dipper for this one. The security drone shoots and kidnaps Uncle Ford, and is trying to take him to an alien prison. Dipper uses a magnet gun to hold onto the pod, and they go flying all around Gravity Falls. And honestly, this looks really fun, if it was a different circumstance obviously. He changes the gun to a setting called Magnapulse, which completely disables the pod, sending it crashing down. Dipper is fine, but Ford seems like he's knocked out. And then to top it off, the drone pulls out a gun, but Dipper stands there and defends his uncle, and somehow his heart rate is completely normal, so the pod just shuts down on its own. And Ford is really proud of Dipper. And if you think that's crazy, just wait, it's gonna get so much crazier. So anyways, we go back to Mabel, who's still having a pretty bad day, and Stan tries cheering her up by telling her at least she will always have Dipper, which is pretty ironic. But she feels better until she overhears Dipper's walkie-talkie. Dipper finally agrees to become Ford's apprentice and stay with him in Gravity Falls, and he seems really excited about it. Then Dipper comes home and finds Mabel a complete and utter mess, and she confronts him about staying in Gravity Falls because she thought he was the one person she could rely on. Dipper tries to tell her he's gonna still visit her and text her all the time, but she's still really upset about it, and she storms off into the woods with her backpack. But it's actually not her backpack, and she buries her face in her sweater and says,
"I wish summer would last forever."
Then the time travel dude just pops out of nowhere, offering Mabel a dream come true, a device that will let her pause summer, and all she has to do is give him the rift. But there's a few things off about this. For one, this guy hates Dipper and Mabel, so why would he just randomly pop up offering her something? And two, he asks her for a dimensional rift in exchange for pausing time. But how does he even know about the rift, and why would he want it? And of course, Mabel grabbed Dipper's backpack, which had the rift, so she pulls it out and gives it to him. And turns out, just like Ford predicted, Bill was possessing someone to try to get the rift. And that's exactly what he did. Bill shatters the rift and a giant crack opens up in the sky, and all Ford says is, "We're too late. It's the end of the world." And the episode ends on the craziest cliffhanger ever. Okay, wow, this episode was a lot to unpack. Even beside Mabel starting the apocalypse at the end, I really like the subtle introduction of aliens to the Gravity Falls lore, and I was left with a lot of questions about them. Like, why did the UFO crash in Gravity Falls? Also, I wonder if any other aliens have came to Earth looking for that ship. It was also really cool to see how Stan and Ford are close parallels with Dipper and Mabel, and I never really thought about that before. Although Mabel is being a little selfish, if they continue on this path, they're gonna end up exactly how Stan and Ford ended up. But anyways, this episode is amazing, and I can see why it's in the top 3. The episode is extremely entertaining and also unpredictable. I was always on the edge of my seat. You start the episode thinking they're just gonna have a simple party, then boom, aliens. Boom, Dipper might leave his sister. Boom, apocalypse. It's just insane. Also, the A and B plot were interesting, and I like how they went together in the end. And we got to see the process of Mabel going from happy to I'ma end the world sad. Such a crazy cliffhanger, it's honestly impressive. The second episode is A Tale of Two Stans, with a rating of 9.6 stars. The episode starts off right after Ford came out of the portal and got revealed to everyone. And also, the US government is still above the shack, but we'll talk more about that later. Ford introduces himself to his niece and nephew, and Dipper is so excited he almost throws up. We then finally get to see Stan's backstory, and it starts off with him and his brother as kids. Although they're twins, the Pines brothers are extremely different. Ford was born with a rare birth defect that caused him to have 6 fingers on each hand, and also has an insanely high IQ, while Stan has, anyways, the Pines brothers were exploring on the beach one day, and they found a little boat in a cave, and they decided to claim the boat and name it the Stan O War, and they make it their dream to fix up the boat and head out to sea. The Stan twins didn't make much friends, but no matter what, they always had each other's backs. Until one day. So Ford put his 6 fingers to work and made a science project so impressive that the best college in the country is coming to look at it, and maybe even give him a scholarship. But then Stan does something awful. He's so desperate to keep his brother that he breaks his project. Also, they don't really point this out, but look at Stan's project. The Footbot 1000 is an insane high school project. The next morning, the college comes to look at Ford's machine, but it's broken down, and he loses the opportunity to go to this school. He also finds his brother's chips, so he knows he broke the machine. And once their parents hear about what Stan did, they straight up kick him out of the house, and his brother won't even talk to him. Stan, now desperate to prove he can get rich to his family, decides to become a con artist salesman, and literally gets kicked out of multiple states all over the country and takes on multiple identities, which is why he has so many fake IDs. Next, we see where Stan Ford goes after college. So Ford, being a sweaty nerd, earned his PhD 3 years early and got a $100,000 grant to research whatever he wanted. So he decided to study anomalies, or things that shouldn't be possible but happen anyway. His research showed a higher concentration of mysterious events near Gravity Falls, so he decides to live there to study these strange events. And he finally starts talking about the journals, and Dipper is fangirling hardcore. It honestly makes me kind of sad seeing how invested Ford was in his research compared to Stan, who was miserable and really missed his brother. We also see Ford creating the iconic gnome page. I swear they show this page all the time. Ford comes to the realization that all the weird stuff in Gravity Falls had to come from somewhere, and describes it as a dimension of weirdness leaking into theirs. Yeah, that's not terrifying at all. Ford makes a plan to build a portal to the source of the weirdness. This is also where we learn how Ford and McGucket are connected, and it's pretty crazy. McGucket was one of Ford's college buddies, and actually lived in California working on computers before he had him come to Gravity Falls to help him with this portal. They probably spent years perfecting this portal, but it was finally time to test it. Ford and McGucket try to carefully let a test dummy into the portal, but they don't realize how strong it is, and McGucket almost gets sucked into the portal. Ford manages to pull him out of the portal, but this man has seen some stuff. Ford tries to ask him what he saw, but all McGucket can do is mutter pure gibberish. Or is it gibberish? You see, this show loves dropping little hints or foreshadowing, and this gibberish is exactly that. If you know anything about Gravity Falls subliminal messages, you know Alex Hirsch loves incorporating hidden messages played backwards. So after playing McGucket's gibberish backwards, we get the phrase, Now I know at first glance, this looks like a bunch of just random letters, but there's a special code cipher called @bash or mirror code, where the first letter of the alphabet is replaced with the last, so A would be Z, B would be Y, and so on. When using this code on McGucket's message, we get something insane. McGucket's code was Bill Cipher Triangle, and in plain English he says some kind of prophecy. When gravity falls and Earth becomes sky, fear the beast with just one eye. Tell me that's not just so crazy. Anyways, after just a few seconds in this portal, McGucket McGucket is so traumatized he quits the project, and we also know that he completely fried his brain just to forget about this entire thing. After McGucket left him was when Ford decided to finally reach out to his brother again, and after Stan gets to Gravity Falls, he clearly sees that his brother has been losing his mind. Stan really doesn't know what is going on, and I can't even blame him. This is some crazy stuff, but at least he's being a pretty supportive brother. This dude Ford made Stan travel all the way across the country, and this is the first time seeing him in 10 years, and all he tells him is to take this book and go far away. And of course, Stan completely blows up on his brother, and he tries to burn his book, which turns into his crazy brother brawl. And during this, Ford accidentally knocks Stan into this really hot symbol, and that's where his tattoo came from. And somehow all of their fighting accidentally turned on the portal, and Ford gets sucked into the portal, leaving Stan to clean up the mess. And by clean up the mess, I mean steal his identity, start a business, and lie to everyone for the next 30 years. Also, I noticed that Stanford's glasses dropped out of the portal, which is why Stan's always wearing them. But when Ford comes out of the portal, he has glasses. Did this man make himself a new pair of glasses in the weird dimension? But anyway, Stan loves his brother and felt extreme guilt after he lost him. And he figures that his brother's research probably has the answers for getting him back. So that's why he's been hiding them from Dipper this whole time. Stan tried every day for 2 weeks to turn the portal back on, but he had no luck because he only had one of the journals. Eventually he ran out of food and has no choice but to go into town. And everybody at the gas station mistakes Stan for his brother and asks him about the weird experiments happening at the shack. And this old man goes,
"I'd pay anything to see what kind of shenanigans go on in there."
Which gives Stan the genius idea of opening the mystery shack and taking his name, which turns out to be his first successful business. Also, I thought it was pretty cool seeing all the citizens of Gravity Falls younger, like the 2 gas station ghosts, the cop, and Lazy Susan. Also, Stan gave Susan her lazy eye, which is so crazy. So I was so into their backstory, I completely forgot the entire US government is just chilling above them, but it's okay because they come up with a plan. So Dipper still has a weapon that erases memories, so Ford does some nerd science stuff and is able to play a giant sound wave that completely wipes all of the agents' memories of Stan and whatever he was doing. And Ford convinces the agents that it was all misunderstanding and he'll take care of the whole thing. So they all just leave. And Dipper has been itching to question this man for so long, but Stan sends him to bed so he and Ford can talk. Stan spent 30 years rebuilding this portal and even risked the entire world in the process to get Ford back, and he doesn't even get a thank you. And the episode just ends. This entire episode was so insane to watch for the first time. The amount of reveals and questions they just casually answer while keeping you so invested in the plot is just insane. Stan and Ford are both such deep characters as well. They both have a lot of pain, regrets, and baggage, and it feels so real and raw. It really makes you feel bad that things turned out the way they did. But despite how messy their relationship was, Stan never stopped his mission to save his brother and placed that above anything else, even Dipper and Mabel. I really admire that about his character. The world building in this episode was crazy as well. We learned not only why Gravity Falls has a bunch of weird stuff happening there all the time, but we also see that Ford and McGucket were the people responsible for letting Bill into their dimension. This episode is just amazing. It's the kind of episode that makes you remember why you fell in love with this show. And finally, the best Gravity Falls episode with an insane rating of 9.8 stars is Not What He Seems. The episode starts off with Stan, ready to activate the portal in the basement, despite the warning that it will cause minor gravity anomalies. Pressing the button also activated a timer for 18 hours, so I'm guessing that's how long the portal takes to heat up. Then we get this cute bonding scene of Stan and the kids, throwing water balloons and playing with illegal fireworks. And Stan actually looks like he wanted to confess to the kids in one of these scenes too, but he backs down. And Stan goes to get a new drink, but then he notices a red dot on his hat. So it turns out the entire US government casually pulls up to take Stan into custody. Also, the 2 agents that we thought got eaten by zombies show up, so I guess they survived somehow. I don't know how. Apparently someone stole toxic waste from a government facility, and the authorities seem pretty convinced that Stan did it. Stan plays dumb like he always does, but he gets arrested anyways. Mabel tries to defend her uncle, but the agents tell her that he's hiding something, a doomsday device. Now in police custody, they ask Stan how he pleads to his charges, and he doesn't do too good. He says guiltissent and innocent guilty, but he does ask for a phone call. He uses this to call Seuss, and he puts him on a mission. He tells Seuss to guard the vending machine with his life, and Seuss is down, no questions asked, he's there. The government agent takes Dipper and Mabel, and they're heading to child services. Dipper and Mabel also overheard Stan say he was restocking the gift shop last night, so if they check the security cameras, they can prove Stan's innocence. So Mabel does something so smart right here. She notices that the truck next to her has a several times sticker, so she writes on the window that they're overrated to make him mad. Not only that, but she had to write it backwards. This guy gets so mad, he smashes right into the agent's car and they get into a crazy wreck. But the kids are okay, so they head to the shack to clear their uncle's name. And Dipper looks like he's having some doubts, but it seems like he still trusts his uncle for now. Mabel and Dipper are now back at the shack, which is heavily guarded by government agents. But they just use a grappling hook and go right through the attic window. They struggle for a bit finding where Stan hides the security tapes, but then they find a secret lever. And they go through the tapes, and at first it seems pretty normal. And Stan is restocking the gift shop, but then he mysteriously disappears for hours. Mabel tries to convince herself that he's pooping outside like nature intended, but he literally doesn't get back until 5 in the morning, and he comes back wearing a whole hazmat suit and with the stolen toxic waste. Mabel tries convincing herself that her uncle might still be a good person, but then they find something pretty bad. They find a box on the desk with dozens of Stan's fake IDs with all different names, and even find an article titled "Stan Pines Dead." So now these kids don't even know whether Stan is really their uncle or not. They also find Stan's secret code to his hideout, which Mabel quickly realizes is the vending machine. And honestly, a vending machine is such a cool spot for a secret door. I would never assume there was a door behind a vending machine. Also, the portal was really close to opening up, so the gravity events start getting crazy. Stan uses a low gravity to his advantage and is able to free himself from custody. He also pays a cab a few $100s to drive away from the police as fast as he can. Back at the shack, Dipper and Mabel are finally ready to go into Stan's secret hideout and see what he's been up to, but instead they find Seuss guarding the machine. The kids are done with Stan's lies, so they decide to just attack Seuss. Seuss tries his best to hold back the kids, but Dipper manages to type in the secret code, causing the door to open. They all head inside the lab, and Dipper notices that this base looks a lot like the bunker in the woods. Dipper also finds out that Stan has the other 2 journals, and he has a whole mental breakdown. Dipper puts all of the books together and looks at the blueprints for the portal, putting up the black light. The invisible ink reveals that this portal could tear the universe apart. But now there's only a minute left before the machine is activated. Right when they're about to shut down the machine, Stan comes around the corner looking desperate. Stan tries to get Dipper to trust him, but then the gravity in the room goes completely crazy. Mabel is able to get close to the button, and Dipper tries to get her to push it, but Stan makes one last plea and tells Mabel everything's done for their family. Mabel makes her choice, and she decides to trust Stan. The portal activates and everything turns white, and a mysterious person walks out with 6 fingers. This is when the author of the journals is finally revealed as Stan's brother, and the episode ends on that crazy cliffhanger. This episode was crazy, and I can see why it's rated 9.8 stars. This literally wasn't even my first time watching it, and I still felt insanely stressed out the entire time I was watching it. This episode has so much suspense, it keeps you on the edge of your seat the entire time. Even I didn't even know if I should trust Stan or not. The tension Alex Hirsch created between the characters was absolutely insane. From Stan breaking out of custody, to the kids finding out he stole government waste and had fake IDs, and then the way he just pops up at the very last second makes the stakes feel really high. No one has any idea what the purpose of his machine is, and that alone is interesting enough to make you want to watch to the end. Everybody knew that Stan had a secret, but I doubt people guessed he had an entire twin brother in another dimension. That's kind of a crazy turn. This episode really shows you that Stan has way more layers than you can ever imagine. The storytelling is also amazing, and the plot flowed so smoothly, and the last minute had my anxiety going through the roof. The way Dipper and Mabel just spend the entire episode unraveling their uncle's secrets, and by the end they don't even know if that's their uncle or not. I like that Dipper and Mabel are basically polar opposites in this scene. On one side you have Dipper, who's so suspicious of his uncle, he's willing to shut down his life's work without even hearing him out. Then we have Mabel, who decides to trust Stan, even after learning how much he's been lying to her. This really shows how deep Mabel's love and loyalty goes for Stan, and she even spent the entire episode defending him. This episode is also considered a big turning point for the entire show, since the big questions fans had for years start finally getting answered, and they start to build up for the finale. The reveal of the author was crazy. I mean, people guessed that Stan had some connection to the author, but being his brother is an insane plot twist, and I enjoyed every second of it. This episode is a masterpiece in writing, and it's easy to see why there's so much hype around it, but it's not that scary, because if it was, it'd be in the middle of the screen. These are Gravity Falls Scariest episodes, in the middle of the screen. You can watch Gravity Falls Scariest episodes, it's